there. My name is Shontra Powell, and I'm so excited to share with you some of the tips to be a guest on a podcast. So here we go. We're just going to jump right on in. I have 3 things that I think are really important for any future guest on a podcast. First and foremost, I have to say, it sounds almost too obvious to be a statement, my first statement, but that is know the audience. Seriously, know the audience. So we live in such a time where folks are really waking up to the fact that podcast is a wonderful way to amplify your message, your voice, and your reach. And those are all really positive, really very good things. Well, I think the downside of that is that you have folks that have become so enamored with the notion of being on a podcast that they overlook the fact that these are communities. These are audiences. They have a persona and a profile. So whether you're seeking to be on a podcast or whether you're asked to be on a podcast, I would challenge you as a potential guest to do your homework about the audience. Now, that may include asking a whole lot of questions of a host that seeks you out. Why is it that you're seeking me out? Question number 1. Who do you speak to on a regular basis? Question number 2. Why do they listen to you? What do they enjoy about your conversations? What do they say to you? What makes them come back? That's your last set of questions. So know your audience is truly the baseline. And if you find yourself in a position of wanting to leverage a podcast and you're seeking to be a guest on a podcast, the responsibility to know the audience is really great for you. Why? What's your why? Why that podcast? Why that audience? And most importantly, why you for them? Okay, moving on. So know your audience is number 1. The next thing is make it plain. What are you trying to talk about? What do you have to say? Make it plain. Be very clear beforehand with what your key points of message are that you really want to impress upon the audience. The best podcast host is going to have wonderful questions that are going to guide you from post to post. For you, as the guest, be ready to be guided, but be ready to be guided from a position of knowing the messages that you feel most passionately about and want to get across. So, what does that sound like? Detail out your stories in advance. Podcast listeners love to relate to who they're listening to. And the best way for them to relate is to hear stories, real stories. So instead of showing up with a key point that you want to get across, perhaps try having the key point, but having a story that engages the listener and allows the listener to relate to you and then be open to the key point. Don't miss that point. That's really, really important. They need to be open to the key point. So now, you know your audience, you're making it plain, you're very, very clear on the point that you want to make, and you're really unfolding and getting ready to be vulnerable with story. Okay, you think you're ready? Nope. One more thing. Be prepared to let go and flow. Saying that one again. Be prepared to let go and flow. Now, what do I mean by that? So now you're in this podcast and you came with stories, you came with key points, and your podcast host is facilitating a discussion that seems to be pulling you further and further away from the stories that you had locked and loaded for that conversation. And then you start to get a little confused about, Well, what are my key points? Here's where let go and flow will be your friend. The podcast host is intimately connected to the listener. And the podcast host is really clear on what inspires those listeners, what they're listening in for, what they want to hear. They've built a rapport and they've built a relationship and they've built trust over time. So now it's time for you to trust them. This is where let go and flow comes in. Instead of being connected to the stories that you showed up wanting to tell, be open to the vulnerability of perhaps sharing something you hadn't prepared to share. Be open to the journey that could feel a little bit like a maze as the podcast host successfully weaves with you a wonderful delivery that will not only shine you in the best light as the guest, but will also reach the listeners, connect with the audience, and increase the experience for everybody. Let go and flow. So let me go through the 4 points again. First and foremost, know the audience. Ask all the questions to understand what arena you're showing up to. And most importantly, why are you there? And if the intention isn't to reach those in the arena that you'll be meeting and to have them leave better than when they arrived, then maybe reconsider why you're doing it. The second thing, make it plain. Show up with your stories, show up with your key points. Make sure that you are clear on how to make what you have to say clear, received and understood by the listener. And now, sounding almost like I didn't fully commit to that last statement, let go and let it flow. Even though you will be very prepared with knowing the audience, you will be very prepared with your points and your stories, lean into the journey. Allow the podcast host to keep you fresh and connected with your delivery and keep you engaging and purposeful in the conversation that you're both putting together for an amazing audience, an amazing community. That after this experience that you have could actually be the community that supports you in the thing that you want to do. Podcasting is a powerful tool. I started podcasting as a mentor to many wonderful people over a lot of years in a corporate career. And what I found is in podcasting, not only was I able to extend that reach to more people, but I was able to create a community. And over time, I began to understand the reason why they were there. Now, when you're signing up for a podcast, you make sure that whoever has asked you, or whoever you're asking, because it can go both ways, let you know the secret to the community and the why. So it's so much fun. You're going to have so much fun. Relax, enjoy, and most importantly, remember that this simple gift of giving is going to pay off so greatly. Even if you touch just one listener has the power to be the difference in a world that needs people that show up to be the difference. I wish you much success. Enjoy your time as a guest on podcast, and thank you for your service.